been looking forward to this all week. Peace and quiet. No running around the plant from job to job. Ow! Oh man, that hurt.
Forget to keep your eye on the ball?
And on the fish hook, too. I guess that stuff you were talking about hasn't quite clicked for me.
Yeah, it didn't happen overnight for me either. It takes time to change habits and unintentional behavior. You didn't intend to stick yourself. You just weren't watching what you were doing while you were baiting the hook. At least not the whole time, anyway.
I didn't have my eye on the task at all times.
Right, one of those 4 critical errors. The other was having your thumb in the way.
Oh yeah, line of fire.
So were you thinking about what you were doing or something else?
Well, actually, I was thinking about work, so I guess there was some mind not on task, too.
Right, and did you lose your grip, or did your hand slip, or what?
Oh, I see where you're going. Balance, traction, or grip? No, not really. But I guess 3 out of 4 is enough.
1 is enough. Eyes not on task and mind not on task are definitely 2 of the biggest problems. There are tons of accidents that would probably never happen if we just kept our eyes and our minds on what we're doing.
Guilty on both counts.
All right, think about why you weren't watching what you were doing with that hook.
Well, I've done it hundreds of times. I could practically do it in my sleep.
You're so used to baiting that hook that you don't think you need to always watch what you're doing.
It's complacency, isn't it?
Well, that could be part of it. But complacency isn't the only thing that causes you to take your eye off the ball. Rushing, frustration, fatigue also work pretty well.
You know, when I think about my routine every day, the bumps or bruises, close calls, it's almost always from rushing or being tired because it's late in the day that gets me hurt.
That's usually how it happens.
Even in situations where it's a bit more dangerous, like using power tools or working up on scaffolding, you know, if you've done it over and over and over,
complacency can set in. You know, at the beginning, a more hazardous job will really raise your awareness, so you may be less likely to make a mistake or get hurt. But after a while, it's easy enough to let your mind wander. A situation that seems safe, even one that's routine, may be potentially dangerous.
Some things seem so simple you don't think you need to look.
Like I said, the 2 most critical errors people can make are eyes not on task and mind not on task. Just think about the potential for trouble when you're on the road. It's one thing if you're carefully watching the road but thinking about something else. And it's not so bad if you're driving and you take your eyes off the road for a second if you've got your mind on what you're doing. But if you combine both eyes not on task and mind not on task, you've really increased the risk.
Sure, I know I've done that more than a few times myself.
Yeah, but keeping the eyes on task is more than the obvious stuff like watching the road, though. Things like pre-job inspections, looking for sharp corners, oil or water spills.
Checking labels on chemical containers or power equipment.
Or looking for blind spots or the invisible line of fire.
Yeah, you have to be thinking about those.
That's why eyes on task and mind on task are so closely related. In many situations, you just got to think about looking for the hazard.
Like when there's ice on the road or an oil spill on the shop floor.
The problem with mind not on task is that it happens naturally when something becomes routine. And you know how routine circumstances can change.
Yeah. Then all you're left with are your habits or your reflexes.
And if you got bad habits or if you don't even see the hazard, then you won't even get a chance for a reflex.
And that's when you get it.
And then there's the stuff that's not only invisible, but you can't hear it or smell it.
Like electricity or certain gases or temperature extremes.
I think you're starting to get it.
Well, this is no easy thing, right? So tell me, how do you get better at keeping your eyes and mind on task?
Well, you've already taken the first step, recognizing the patterns of the states to errors that increase the chance of injury.
Oh, put this in.
Next, you've got to analyze those bumps and scrapes and close calls. And try to figure out why you didn't see that cord you tripped over, or why you pinched your finger in the drawer.
Or why I almost ran off the road while I was reading a map. I hear you.
It almost always comes back to one of those states. Or sometimes a bad habit. You know, and once you realize the cause, then you're able to see what happens because of habit and what happens because of those states.
I've tried to start a new habit of thinking to look before I do anything.
That would be great, but it's easier said than done. You know, sometimes I use visual reminders. You know, like a note on a hot soldering iron or some PPE sitting in a highly visible spot to remind me of safety before starting a job.
Good idea. There's a guy over at my place that already does that kind of thing.
You know, I try to watch for the errors other people might commit too. It's a good way to fight complacency, and it increases my awareness about safety in general.
I got to try to do more of that.
You might want to try those suggestions too. Eyes on all critical tasks and mind on all critical tasks isn't easy. We know it's important, but that doesn't mean it's that easy to fix. The workbook will give you more detail about those 2 critical errors and what you can do about them. Meanwhile, Pete and I will keep plugging along here. When you're finished, come back to the tape to review a few scenarios related to the topic.